So I'm here with Shmuel Herschberg, and he's the face of Shine Media with over 10 years of experience in the online field, direct marketing, straight from the streets of Long Island, New York, correct? And now you're residing in Israel, in Tel Aviv, right?
Yeah, a little bit north of Tel Aviv.
Cool. And then he's an experienced consultant, marketer, specializing in CRO, SEM, and media buying, email marketing, copywriting, business development, revenue generation for other companies, hitting records for them, getting other offers to scales. And I got to say, one of the things that, when I'm working with a client, we help them write some YouTube ads. Usually it takes a while, but I remember we got that first batch of YouTube ads, and I remember we gave it to you, and then you were running the traffic, and it was starting to work immediately. So I was pretty shocked and to see what you did over there, and I want to talk about that in a second. First, okay? I want to ask you a kind of a weird question. I hear in Israel you're able to get by compliance, right? People who run media there. What is up with that? Right? I hear that all the time. They're like, oh, I live here or I live here. And yeah, we have different rules. I could get by with certain words on Facebook. I could say you, I could say this, I could go this. I know they have an office there, maybe they have friends, but like, how does that work?
I always try to make sure that everything is compliant.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's not to say that I've never seen ads get rejected or obviously when you're dealing in the health and wellness space, you're going to have complexities about advertising in that space. But yeah, I mean, we've just had a lot of luck, and I've been focused and specializing with Google predominantly. So I think Facebook is a little bit more tight when it comes to health. But I would say the number one thing when you're trying to market and stuff is the sixth sense, which is, common sense. That's
Yeah.
obviously the number one rule that I could tell,
Kind of
and
like,
and I
if
always
you
try.
have to ask, if it's okay, it's probably not okay, kind of deal, right? Using that
Yes,
sense.
yes,
I mean, can you tell us like
yeah. Some
the importance of compliance? Like, you know, offers could just get crushed completely, right? All their campaigns, like a lot of people don't know, and they'll say certain things in their ads, and they really believe that their products could do that. Like, I have some clients, they're like, Johnson, I need help with copy. I'm like, what does your supplements do? They're like, everything, and then,
Yeah.
how do you have you had clients like that? Like, how do you explain compliance to them? And your supplements can't cure everything. I know you believe it, but like,
So
there's
that's definitely a big trigger word is cure. Like that is a word you don't want to be using anywhere.
yeah.
Curing anything.
Of
Uh,
fixing, healing.
even before I went off and started my own consulting business, I was working for a company that was on NASDAQ and it was in the health and wellness space as well. And there was a compliance team. And I remember the compliance VP, she would always say, the FDA is not approving our product, it's giving clearance for our product. So and there's a big distinction between it, Approving is saying, yeah, this works, this is great. Whereas clearance is like, we've looked at the evidence and we've looked at what's going on, and it seems like it's okay. No one's giving their stamp and saying this cures anything. So that's very important that when you're working in this space to make sure that you're not going over that red line. You
Yeah.
might want to be approaching it from a marketing standpoint. Obviously you don't want to have just vanilla type of boring ads. You want to have like stuff that piques interest and is creative and it catches the eye. And we could talk more about this later down the road. But you don't want to cross that red line. And that's a very clear line. And I think, like you said, if you're gonna have to ask, is this okay to, and you have kind of second guessing yourself, it's probably not, and you should
That's
probably just tone down the language a little bit in the copy of the ad on the landing page.
Yeah. And another thing I want to mention is, if you're selling a supplement, you're in a health niche, and you're advertising, your media buyers are advertising to different countries. Not all countries have the same rules on the ingredients. So if you're advertising to a country where that ingredient is banned, can that trigger a violation? Or
I would definitely think so. I'm personally of the opinion that in terms of the health and wellness space, uh, you got to make sure you understand your market, and don't just go off and all of a sudden be global. Obviously, you have shipping issues as well, and tax issues, tariffs and stuff that you have to realize as well. It's not just, oh, we could sell this product in this country, let's go sell it, and then all of a sudden people start ordering it, and then you start shipping there, and then it gets stopped at customs, and they're like, what is this?
yeah,
We don't allow this. And then you just have a logistical nightmare. So you really want to make sure that you're
yeah,
focused on understanding what the limitations are and what's allowed in each country, not just from an advertising, but like you say, from the ingredients, from a distribution and shipping and handling perspective as well. Because the last thing you want is to get those,
yeah.
products being stopped like at the goal line.
Yeah, but also, and I know people are like, okay, they're worrying about their ads compliance, but a lot of people, they aren't looking at their VSL. Maybe their VSL isn't compliant and they're running to a landing page that mentions certain words also, and do you have clients that get confused on that, like not understanding like
Yeah.
what okay, let's get to this. So when the compliance team, or bots, whatever Google and them are using, so they check your ad, and what else do you have to worry about? You have to worry about the landing page, and like what else how far did they go into checking out like the
So
compliance words?
from my experience, they're definitely crawling the text on the landing page where you're sending traffic to. And this is actually something that kind of irks me, because you can be trying to be on the up and up, and one of the ways to be on the up and up is to have empirical evidence, like peer-reviewed studies that you want to show, to highlight how your research and the findings that you're bringing are based on real scientific studies. Okay, so if you're going to be using those in, let's say, footnotes, or in your text on your copy, and give the citations, that I think is a huge service, right? I think that's very important to say, to show your readers, hey, this is brought down in this medical journal, and this is brought down in this magazine article, right? And that's actually interesting, something that Google will ding you for. So it's sad in a certain way, because you can't always necessarily give those citations, but it's kind of like the two-edged sword. It's like you want to have it there, but then Google's not going to let you have it there. So you have to be careful with how you present your evidence and stuff like that.
Jeez, so much stuff. All right. I want to get into the ads, about the YouTube ads. I write pretty long ads compared to like other people. Other people are writing like, 1 minute, 2 minute ads max. I know some people do the 30, 40 minute VSL ads, a little bit different. I'm writing ads around 4 to 6 minutes. And I remember you took that feet ad and then you chopped it up and you made a short version of the ad and took the chunk of it and put it as the lead on the VSL. And I was shocked to see that you did that on your own, because that's something we used to do back in the days at Six Pack, because we had to split test and we were trying to come up with every idea to get a new test on without having to write new copy. And that's one of the ways. Like, how did you figure that out? Because I don't know anyone else that does this.
Basically, I was just trying to make more with less. Okay. And I think that's something super important when you're going out and filming your VSLs and your ad copy and stuff like that. It's always easier to cut things on the cutting room floor, as they say, right? But if you're gonna go and make an ad, right, and then a week later you're like, oh man, I should have added, this component to it, right? And oh, I should have said something like that and that angle, or we should have filmed it from this angle, right? And then it's like, all right, you have to get your presenter back, and I'd say 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be able to replicate that same scene. So there are definitely ways to do it with like B-roll is a great way, because then you just have the presenter say whatever the line is that you want to say, and then you could kind of stitch it over. But it's best, going back to your question, is it's always best to film more and then be able to cut it. So taking that principle, what I like to do is start cutting things down. I like to think of myself kind of like at that middle of the road. Like, if you think about, like, you have your data scientists, and then you have your people like you that you're just writing awesome copy and stuff, and just pure copy, right? I like to think of myself as being able to, kind of straddle both lines, where I'm looking at the data and I'm looking at what's working in terms of the copy. And then from there, I just noticed certain trends, like in terms of how much we were paying for traffic based on how long videos are. I was noticing trends in terms of click-through rates, and click-through rates are super important, because people always want to focus on that. Just what's the ROAS? Like,
Yeah.
is it ROAS positive? Get me the good ROAS, but there are many indicators until you get to that ROAS. I remember in a marketing course, one of the professors said, a lot of micro decisions, lead to that macro decision.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like you have to take those mini yeses along the way, and then that will translate to the big yes. So when you look at CPM, right, and how much you're paying for media, and when you're looking through click-through rates and the cost per click, right, those are going to get you more traffic and get you more people to your landing page, and then you're going to be able to make more money like that. So I was able to, like, analyze that data, and then I was able to see, like, oh, if we have shorter videos, we could get people to the landing page more. And then once you bump them out of the YouTube website, right, and they're on your landing page, you kind of have more of their attention. I wouldn't say you have their whole attention, right? I don't
Yeah.
think you would say that either, right? In today's world of just, phones dinging and websites and everything going on, you never really have anyone's full attention, but you have more of their attention. And that's what we're looking for. We're trying to get more people to your landing page. And then, yeah, so I just noticed that, and I'm like, what if we just kind of like start cutting things down and getting people over to the VSL, and then it's just like, but then the VSL doesn't really complete the ad. So it's like, okay, so let's just take the full ad, right? And normally we have like click here in the YouTube ad. So that obviously needs to be dealt with, because it's going to be a seamless approach once they come to your VSL. So we just tested that, and it worked. It did really well for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this also. Okay. So just for the people watching, so what we're doing is we had like a 5 minute ad, and then we would and Shmuel here would cut it down to about a minute and run the 1 minute ad, which did, killer, right? And then we took the full ad, took out the call to actions, and then plugged it in as a new lead to the current VSL, and they both completed and made sense. And that's how it's converting. And I was going to tell you, because you also do emails. So what we did was we went back and turned that ad into an email, right? And then sent
Yeah.
to
Yeah, we
that
did.
same lander. And that was killing it. So a lot of people don't know, if you could have one good solid ad, you could repurpose it for so many things. And a good ad, it's this, to me, a good ad is just a lead. It's the same as the lead on the VSL, and
Yeah.
it's just a little bit different. You got to have more of that catchy hook to get them to watch, and that triggers that domino effect of going through your pages.
Exactly. And also just iterating, like you said, like all of a sudden you took the video ad, but then you translated that to email, to a different medium. And that's just super important. It's not always just going back to the drawing board and looking at like a blank board, right? You have the thing like, oh, this worked. Okay, fine, great. How can we iterate it? Okay, let's look on email and stuff like that. Oh, this concept worked, right? How can we do it better, right? So the first time we did it, it was kind of like a little patchwork type in terms of like merging and appending it to the VSL. So it's like, how can we do it a second time where it'll be even better? And that goes back to filming more and just getting more audio, more visuals, more video that you could actually edit and splice and make it work for you in a more seamless way.
Gotcha. And some of this stuff, and I know there's people out there listening, they're affiliates, right? And they're just running their own YouTube ads to someone they do exclusive work for, right? And what we're doing is we're working internally with the client where we have that kind of control where we can add some to a VSL. And for the affiliates out there, they can't do that because they don't have any control with the client. They're just sending traffic there. So they can't do these weird cuts. So I just want to make sure and let people know, like, if you have that communication with your clients, you could start creating that. And that's super important to be able to do something like that in order to be that creative.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true. It's you could definitely if you have the volume and you have the relationship with the affiliate, it's definitely something that you shouldn't just say, "Oh, I can't do that because I'm an affiliate." You should, pick up the phone, write an email saying, "Hey, I got this idea. Are you on board? I want to test this." Again, at the end of the day, it's not it doesn't take that much work to try to test something. You're always just trying to break the patterns and find that unique angle. And this actually worked. So it was a big win.
And a lot of ads that when you start running, okay, let's say you run a couple of ads, you run a campaign for like 2, 3 days, whatever. I know it's not enough data maybe at the time because it just started spending. Like, is there a key indicator, like something that tells you that, wow, this ad's gonna work after just running it for like a couple of days? I know, in the past we would say like, all right, this ad has to be, if I'm running it for the first couple, it has to be at 230 ROI, ROAS, whatever. And then I know that
Hmm.
in about 2 weeks, it's going to drop down to like, 120 because the stats are high in the beginning. And that's how I know it has,
Yeah.
yeah, it has to be a banger from the beginning with this stat. Is there a certain number you look for?
So I'm looking for stuff that also takes in just the time, and it also depends on what your budgets are. So obviously, if someone's starting with low budgets, they're not going to be able to have the patience that someone with a larger budget might have. First of all, just having having an understanding of what your whole YouTube account looks like is super important. Search is search, and it's very much a proactive type of advertising medium. Someone's searching for your product. Whereas YouTube video, you're just trying to target, and you're not necessarily sure if this person is gonna actually search for your product or not. So obviously, targeting is very important to make sure you have the right target. But at the end of the day, YouTube's going to show that ad to who they want to show it to that fits in your target. And I reckon that there are a lot more people that can see the product that would be interested in the product. So having that understanding of what the limits are is very important. So you might have like some campaigns that are hitting on all cylinders and stuff like that. So that should be able to cover the cost from like an investment perspective, to say like, okay, I'm not going to take like 100% of the profits of this and laugh all the way to the bank. I'm going to take some of these profits from the larger, more established campaigns that I know are making good money, and I'm going to try to invest in some smaller campaigns to see if they can produce. Now, one thing that I like to do is I think it's very important, like, if people are like on, let's say, target CPA model and stuff in Google Ads for YouTube, it's important to keep tabs on like what your target CPA is, because if you go into your Google Ads account, you'll see what your target CPA is today, right? But then if I change that target CPA, I come back next week and I'm like, what was that target CPA last week? Because it was really spending last week. So it's important to like get that data, keep tabs of it, and see like what is causing it to spend, what's causing the campaigns to choke and to stop spend, what points, what are your target CPAs that are making good ROAS for you. So all that sort of stuff, keeping tabs on all the stuff in the reporting is super important.
Gotcha. All right. I want to go more into that, the process of making an ad. But first, I want to ask about, okay, so I know people that are like, oh, I'm just gonna go write an ad with AI. Just gonna get Fiverr or something real fast and I'm gonna run it. Oh my gosh, it doesn't work, or the ad's terrible,
Yeah.
or they're not looking through all the stats. I want to see if you can explain some of the stuff like, okay, first your ad has to spend, right? And it has to hit certain CPA or ROI or ROAS goals, right? And then it has to and then you have to look at the click-through rate, that goes to the landing page. And now What else do you have to look at? Because what if your ad is not making money, but it's sending people to the lander, right? Then it must be something else. It could be the lander, the VSL, looking at the play rate on the VSL,
Mm-hmm.
the click through rate from the landing page to the cart. You go through some of those numbers? Like, what will, if your ad is, getting clicks, like what else do you need to look at if it's not making revenue?
Yeah, so I think first of all, before you start sending YouTube traffic and stuff, you want to make sure that your ads are converting. So I think if you're new to this game and you're just tuning in and you're like, oh wow, I have a great product and it's e-commerce or it's direct, direct response marketing, and I want to start with some Google ads, I think going from day one on YouTube is a big mistake. Because you're not exactly sure if your landing page is actually going to convert. So I think that's super, super important, is just to make sure that your landing page can convert. That's why, in terms of like affiliate marketing, is great. If you have the right connections in the affiliate marketing community, you could get people to kind of send for your offer, and you could kind of get an understanding if it's going to convert. And then once it starts converting, and you do go the route of Google Ads, it always is important to start with search. Okay, and I say that because one of the things that we do, and I think we do this very good, is like when we have kind of like a brainstorming or a jam session, whatever we want to call it, to try to come up, okay, what's going to be the next, the next $1 million ad copy, right? I'm always looking at the data, right? We're always looking like what are the key keywords that people are searching for? What are what are those top keywords, right? What are the search terms, right? How are people searching for it? Because there's a lot of data there that will point you in the right direction. But if you're not looking at that data, right? If you're just going straight to YouTube and you're like, oh, I got this real clickbaity type of ad and it's getting people to the landing page, but it's not converting, there's a disconnect. And you don't want to have that disconnect. You want to make sure, first of all, that your ads are able to convert. And then you want to make sure that you're converting on search and you know what the keywords are. You know what your audience is kind of searching for and what's resonating with those ads and the keywords and the search terms to your landing page. And that could kind of, I think, give you a good hint of what types of content, what types of phrases, right? I always say, okay, Johnson, we have to make sure we have this phrase laced in like the first 5 seconds, because we see like a lot of people are searching for this and we're getting good conversion value out of it. So it's like super important, even if the ad has nothing to do with it. So it's like when someone's listening on YouTube, right, and they see like, oh, wait a second, right? Like I'm just like the other people that were searching for that term, and it resonates, right? And then all of a sudden you hook them in.
Gotcha. So yeah, it's not just, a copywriter isn't just, even myself. I am writing ideas off the top of my
I
head.
know you are. And you're
Yeah.
writing good ones.
And then, but I'm still, like using those keywords that you're telling me, and I'm looking at ads that are working and seeing like what hook style is working. So it's really formulaic, and like even though you're being creative, you're like, okay, I'm gonna create a hook based on this style. And now I'm gonna use these search words that Shmuel told me about. And the call to action words need to be a certain way, and I need to write it in a certain length. So it's not
Yeah.
just write one and go. I got a funny story. So our good friend Tony, he's the VP of a Digistore, right? And sales.
Yeah,
And
I
then
know Tony. Yeah.
he was telling me, he goes, hey, one of his friends wants to put an offer there. And then in a week, the guy said it's all done. And he was like, how did you get an offer with a VSL, everything written? No, they didn't have they wrote it out, the VSL, but they didn't get produced. So they put it on the landing page as text only. And he found out he just went on AI and just had AI write everything, put it on the landing page and said it's ready, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's crazy that and obviously Tony told me he read it and it was just like, man, it's like this isn't gonna work. So I want to talk about the YouTube process, where what does it really take to get a YouTube ad to work? Like from writing, can you tell us, like you got to brainstorm and then
Yeah.
outline and then write it, and then yeah, tell us about that, and then about what you do to rearrange the ads, and yeah.
I think first of all, like just being organized makes life a lot easier, especially on the cutting room floor. And then stuff that we've done in the past together that has done well. There's that insert table right into your copy. That's super important. Okay. And I'll tell you why. So it's like you write the copy, right? And then you have someone review it. And that's usually me. So
Right.
you're writing the copy and I'll review it. I'll be like, oh, okay, this is pretty solid, right? And then I'm like, you know what? Not everyone might have this issue. If we just assume that people have an issue, it could turn people off that don't have that issue. So I'm like, let's insert a table here, right? So it's like you have your first paragraph, and then you have that second paragraph and third paragraph, right? So it's like reads like a regular Word document. But I'm like, that second paragraph, and when we're talking about paragraph, by the way, like in the recording world, just full disclosure, paragraphs are like the same as sentences. No one writes like, these long paragraphs. Like we're talking about like a sentence. So you insert a table, right? And then you kind of write the angle for one person and then you kind of write it for another person. And then this goes back to like on the cutting room floor. All of a sudden you have two versions of this ad. Because at first you have just like one version, which is just straight up copy, which is like writing straight to the person. And then all of a sudden you stick in another copy angle, and all of a sudden you're kind of framing it that the person might not have this issue, or they might not know about it, or it might be relevant for them, or relevant for someone that they know. And
Mhm.
then that could also resonate with them. So you do that, and all of a sudden we spoke about we have two ads. And then you do that like in another place in the ad copy. And then all of a sudden you have four permutations of that ad. And then basically for the price and the time of getting one ad together, all of a sudden you have like four unique ads. And that's doing more with less. Okay. So you basically just had one ad. And then all of a sudden you could split test it four different ways, and this is before we get to the point of that we could slice things and cut things down and trim things and make sure that all of a sudden we go from a 4 minute ad to a 2 minute ad. So all of a sudden you have these hacks and stuff, all thanks to just inserting a table into your document. We're definitely talking to this audience and we could be straight up about it. And this is the angle that's kind of more holistic, so to speak. And then you kind of just make four ads from like one ad. And the other important thing when you're looking at these ads is knowing like how much time it takes to read a page of paper, right? So I think it's like, what is it? It's like 1 minute to read a page of paper or something like that, like depending what the font
Yeah,
is,
like one
right?
or 2 minutes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so like when you're looking at the ad, you kind of have to like pace yourself. That first of all, that those first couple of seconds are huge because that's when people are gonna it can't click the skip ad. So that's super important to make sure that you have them at that moment. And that comes from like movies. If anyone ever studied film, right? The first minute of a screenplay is like the most critical moment in the film. It's
Yeah.
how do you get the people onto the edge of their seats and get ready to watch 2 hours of your movie. So it's super critical, those first few seconds in a YouTube video. And then the other thing to remember is that it's not linear. It's not going from 1 to 10. It's not like everyone's going to watch the whole video and then say, "Oh, that was a great video. I want to learn more." Right? People after 10 seconds, 15, 20, 30 seconds might be like, "Oh, this is interesting. I want to learn more." So it's very important to sprinkle in those call to actions, not just at the very end, but sprinkle them in like around 30, 40 seconds in, a minute and a half in. And depending, obviously, it depends on how long the video is. But I think a good rule of thumb is you need three good call to actions within the video,
Yeah.
and just tell them click the button below. Just make sure that you're telling them what to do. They don't have to get to the end of your video to convert and to click through. They could click through whenever, and it's something that we should be cognizant about, so that when we're making these ads, we're trying to get them to click as soon as possible. Because, like I said earlier, once they're out of YouTube and they're on your VSL, they're on your landing page, you have their attention for the next couple of minutes. So that's super important to get them there. Make sure that you're split testing and adding in different columns into your ad copy, uh, and also getting other people to write those unique angles and stuff, because everyone will have a different perspective. The whole point of teamwork is that the team wins, right?
Yeah.
So that's super important. And I think when you have that recipe, and you follow it, you're setting yourself up for the best chance for success.
Yeah. And I know some, I've heard this before. I know people hearing, they're like, wait a minute, you're saying switch one sentence and that's a new ad? Can one sentence really make a difference? What I tell people is, when you tell a joke, if you have one word wrong, it's not funny, right?
Yep.
One word, just one misuse of a word, the entire joke is ruined, right? And I
Yeah.
say the same thing with ad. That's how important even like couple of words are on your ads.
The words obviously are very important, and they can resonate with people differently. But it's also YouTube, that YouTube's looking at the algorithm, and for whatever reason, like sometimes ads just don't spend, right? And it's not pulling that YouTube ad. So if you have a few concepts and they're virtually the same, but you have 4 or 5 different YouTube videos that you can put into a YouTube ad, it just gives more information for YouTube to work with. The more information you have, the more chance that something will stick, because not everything sticks. If we're just sitting here and talking, saying, "Oh yeah, we put together an ad," and every time it's just it's
Yeah.
it makes $1 million. I don't want people to think that's the case. It's there's a lot of work, there's a lot of trial and error, there's a lot of iteration, there's a lot of looking at the data. Yeah.
I say this all the time. It's kind of like buying one of those scratch off lottery tickets. You could buy 100 of them and you might win $2. You just don't know. Or you could buy that $100 ticket, hire a crazy copywriter. Because one of the things I believe as a consultant is when you start working with a client, you need to help them make money immediately to show that you know what you're doing, right? And I know there's
Yeah.
certain things that take time, but when that first thing you're doing, you got to make a mark to keep you as a client, blah blah blah, to go on. Like for me, I know I could get some YouTube ads out, and I know one out of a couple of them that I write's gonna work, right? And then I know the clients will be impressed with that. And then I also have some tricks on the emails to get that to work. Like, do you have one of those like money makers that you do for your clients? Like, what's that thing you do?
I think organization and is definitely like my forte, in terms of just having a methodology and say, all right, this is how we're going to set things up. Because I'm in Israel, so it's not like I can meet face to face. I'm 8 hours ahead of Central Time, 10 hours ahead of the West Coast. So sometimes meetings can be hard to set up. So when a client is looking at the back end of whether it's the ads or emails or whatever it is, having that organization for me is super important. Anytime a client will go into the stuff that I'm working on, they could easily find something. I could explain to them the methodology of how my naming convention and how I name things, and then it's all there. But like you said, some things they take time. It's called work for a reason. It takes time and it takes hard work to make things work.
Yeah. And I know you do emails and all of that. Like, which one do you find to be the most, enjoyable, or, that hypes you up? Like, I love emails and I love ads, but emails, I could write an email and then get my team to send it tomorrow and see that it made all this money. I don't have to produce it, right? And then, or YouTube, you have that, you get a good YouTube ad out there and everybody knows that ad and they're like, who wrote this? And you have that feeling like, you do a lot of different things. Like, which one do you enjoy the most?
It's a good question. I enjoy it all. And I also work in the nonprofit space. I do some consulting with some nonprofit companies, and I find that very enjoyable as well.
So,
Just kind of like working with companies, organizations that are giving back to the community. I just like the fact that just being a consultant, uh, I can just work on emails. I could work on traffic. I could work in the health and wellness space, helping people live healthier lives. To me, that's very gratifying. And then also the nonprofit kind of space, that helping organizations push their message to make the world a better place. So for me, and I guess at this point in my career, it's like I want to be kind of seeing more of the bigger picture, and this is how I can do it, and this is what I do. So for me, it's all like very exciting. I love opening up in Excel and just setting up a pivot table and adding formulas to it and parsing out the data and getting all geeked out and nerdy about that sort of data. I would be lying if I said, if I just chose one.
I gotcha. Man, I'm like, I love the data, but I'll start drilling into it. Like you say, you're looking at formulas. I'll start looking at it, and man, that kind of it doesn't kill my creativity, but man, it's hard to switch back to like thinking of ideas, from looking at stats and then all right, let's write this. How do you feel about that? Or
Yeah. Well, that's where it helps just being left-handed comes in. I'm a lefty, so
yeah,
I got that left brain power going on. Wait, is
gotcha.
it left brain or right brain? Because you know how it all flips. But I got the lefty creativity going on. So yeah, so I think that's always a good thing.
All right, let's see. And then so like I was saying, can people that are running emails, there are people, I know you love it all. I like it, There's also people that are currently doing emails and in their heart they're like, man, I'd rather run traffic. What's the similarity with like emails and cold traffic? And can they do both?
So one of the things I think is really great is like when you analyze data and stuff. So we spoke before just about getting ideas for YouTube ads by digging into the keywords and the search terms. So subject lines, I think, is an excellent way to also something that you could analyze very easily to understand like what drives traffic, what drives people to open up your emails. Also, like depending how granular you want to get, you could always lace in information in your emails in terms of like where people are clicking on their emails. So like, are they clicking on the images? Are they clicking on buttons? Like what's causing people to convert, right? How many links do you have in an email, right? And the sky's the limit. And if you're not going to use the data, then there's no point in trying to collect the data. But it's always good to think conceptually and organizationally, like what type of information would I like to know about my email, like in 6 months, let's say, right? So we could talk about, okay, in 6 months, I want to find out how many links in an email makes it more efficient to have an email. Like let's say I have like a whole long email, right? And I have one call to action link at the bottom, or I have that same email and I have 5 links scattered throughout the email. What's going to be more efficient, right? And it's far, at least in my opinion, it's far more easier to get this information if you kind of lay the groundwork before you send out the email, right? So in your email, in your naming convention of the email, you lace in how many links you have in the email. You could either lace in like the link treatment. So if it's like, a big text or regular size text or an image or a button, right? Or if you have like an animated GIF of a video in your email, so you might want to classify that as something else. And then you have that in your tracking link. And then you can see what type of links are making you money.
Yeah.
And like, is it the email that's with like 5 links or is it the email with one link, right? Some people all of a sudden see like a lot of links, or even let's say Gmail sees lots of links and like, oh, this is spam, right? They're just clickbaity and everything like that. But then there's like, an email which just has one link and people are starting to read it and they get drawn in like, oh, this is interesting. This is interesting. And then it's like, oh yeah. And then they click. If you're trying to go through stacks and mounds of emails over the past 5 months, and you actually have to click into each email to say, okay, how many links did this have? Even like what time of the day I sent it out, right? Did I send it out in the
Yeah.
morning or in the evening, right? So if you have that already baked into your tracking link, right, it'll just make life a lot easier for you.
And then talking about time of the day, I want to plug in something that I've never done, but I really wanted to split test back then, but we never did was I wanted to have a daytime and a nighttime VSL. So depending on what time of the day you hit on the landing page,
That's good.
because you ever see those telemarketing videos late at night, and it's like one of those like like they're more dark and sad, and where the daytime ones are more hyped and hey, wake up,
It shouldn't be too difficult for a company to do that if they're running a VSL to have a split tester that just sends traffic after a certain hour to a different VSL. Yeah, I love that idea.
All right. And then last thing, because the time's almost up. And then so, if I'm an offer owner and I'm, and I get to meet you and I want to work with you, like, and I just got my entire funnel up. I had a pretty solid copywriter. I haven't been, testing. I haven't gotten any affiliate sends yet, just gotten everything up. I know people should already have that set up agreements to get sends once it's done, but like, I want to kill it and I want to make tons of money. Like, what would you tell me to do? Like, first, okay, would I be getting affiliate sends on the emails? Like you said, getting some numbers first, or like I also met other people. They're creating YouTube ads first, before they even make an offer. And then they're trying to get that pitch working and they're sending to like just a plain opt-in page, a blog, or some, whatever coming soon thing, just to make sure the ads are working before they even make the product. Like, what would you say, is a typical, like a solid way? Because some of those are really sensational or, hard to do.
Yeah, so there's no one size fits all answer because some people are going to come to you and be like, I got so much money behind this offer and I got a runway. I have a whole year to make it work. And then someone else is going to be like, listen, I put my heart and soul into this offer. I don't really have anything to spend on it, and I have to make it work in the next month, and I need help. So I would have two different approaches for those two prospective clients. Uh, I think definitely making sure that the offer converts, no matter what the medium of getting that traffic, there is super important. If the offer is not going to work, you're going to have to like tweak it. So whether that's like hot jarring in and making sure you're looking to see like when people are falling off your VSL or your TSL, right? You want to make sure that that information is in place so you could kind of like funnel hack it, right? And make sure that you're like, oh, okay, fine, we need to get to the offer a little bit quicker, or this visual is causing people to click off our page, right? So you want to make sure that that offer, first of all, is hitting on all cylinders, as they say. And then getting the traffic there is super important. Now, affiliate traffic is very easy if you're connected and if you're in the DRMP group on Facebook. If you're listening to this, like, you know where to find us, and there are a bunch of people, and it's an amazing group, and it's people that just want to help. And affiliate marketing is a great way because you're not paying for the traffic. Obviously, you're sacrificing a lot on the rev share or the CPA, but it will get you traffic, and if you make the right relationships, you can get a lot of traffic through email marketing. And then from there, once you know that the offer is hitting right and converting, I would go the search route to make sure that everything is set up there. Make sure you got your conversion actions in the right place, and then from there just scale. Yeah.
Dang, good. All right. That was good advice. And yeah, so for people out there, there's not just one way. Don't just, you see someone doing it. Of course, you might want to imitate it, but look at how much money they have. A company that could kick out 30, 40 different YouTube ads a month is different from someone that could just get one or two to work, so
Absolutely.
yeah, it's totally different. And even if, and I want to make sure people know, even though they're kicking out like 30 YouTube ads, I mean, they have to spend a lot to create all that. And we talked about the process. You got to brainstorm, then you got to get that copywriter to write it. Then you got to have a media buyer like yourself and copywriter look at the copy, make sure it's working, like the wording is right, get it produced, shot, edited.
Compliance.
Yeah. And then bring it back. And then the copywriter and the media buyer will look at it again and then make different versions and then test it. If it doesn't work now, you got to make new it's just, and I just don't think a lot of people know that it takes that much, eyeballs and all of that. And I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Any last words for us? Any last tips?
Yeah. Any last tips that I can think of? I think just brainstorming is super important. So if you have the chance to work with a team, it provides a lot of value. If you could actually sit down and talk it out with more people than just yourself, that creativity leads to creativity.
Yeah.
And even better than that, we always talk about like the copywriters and the marketing team, but the unsung heroes of any company, I think, is the customer success team, the support team, right? They're going to be on point with what's going on with the customers and what resonates with them. What are the pain points? What works? and they could be provide invaluable knowledge for how to actually speak to your customers and prospective customers and really drive that user engagement forward, because having that one-to-one human touch is so important. And I think the people that are forward facing and communicating with your customers, those are the people that you want in the meeting. So don't just say like, oh, this is just a marketing meeting. Open it up and just get more ideas, because like I said, creativity just leads to more creativity. And the more you have, the more you have to work with, the more you're going to be able to provide YouTube, and you're going to be able to have a better ROI and make a better ROAS, I think, ultimately.
And before we go, I just want to piggyback off on how important brainstorming is. There are people that pay up to like $10,000 for like an hour or two of brainstorming. Okay. And people are like, why would someone pay that much money or thousands an hour? Well, if your one ad, can make millions. I mean, imagine if your ad can make $1 million, you would pay $999 for it, because you're still going to profit, right? It's yeah, that idea that you're not just thinking about that 1 hour. You actually, if you could get that golden idea, you would pay that over and
Absolutely.
over and over. And if you want to brainstorm with Shmuel and I, we're gonna have a relationship.
Let's go.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. I
yeah.
love that pitch. How you set that up.
Gotcha.
Boom, out of the park, right?
Yeah. Hey, so if anyone want to know more about Shimea, what Shmuel does, want to contact him, want to work with him, you want your YouTube ads to work, you can't figure out your email, all of that, or the brainstorming calls, whatever, we have all his links and everything down below, so you can look for that. And man, thanks for taking out time of the day. I know it's early for me, but it's already what, afternoon 4 or 5 for you.
Almost 7 p.m. here,
Oh,
but
almost 7. You're about to go. Yeah. Okay.
I'm about to go play hockey, so I gotta get pumped up. So this really pumped me up, Johnson. So if I have a great game tonight, I'm gonna tell you it's all because of Johnson.
All right. Post it on Facebook or it doesn't count. All right. Well,
Yep.
talk soon again.
Awesome.
And yeah, great call. Thanks, man.
Thank you so much. All right. Bye, Johnson.
See ya.